here in the middle of the city so late. Now, this is one of Haiti's poorest and most dangerous slums. In fact, about a year and a half ago, I never would have been able to get out of our van to walk around here. However, the UN has come out here and they've cleaned things up a little bit, so it's a little safer during the day. But one thing that's very evident out here is the absolute poverty. It looks like you have a lot of
track marks.
Yeah.
They are track marks.
So what about when people say that these pills are only being swallowed and they're not being abused? What would you say to that?
I say that's bullshit. I've done 19 in one day one time. I've done Stronger. I've done Oxy 80s, Dilaudid.
Okay, that's a Roxy 30, Roxycodone?
Roxycodone, 30 milligrams. I fill my needle up with water. I pour water on it. I'm in the vein, and you push down.
Pennsylvania native Caitlin Coleman has been held by the Taliban for 4 long years. In this video that surfaced recently to the surprise of U.S. intelligence, the mother of 2 children born in captivity and her husband appears thin, distraught, and is pleading for her life, but alive. She warns that may not be the case if the Afghan government executes any more Taliban prisoners in the ongoing conflict.
They are willing to kill us, willing to kill women, to kill children, to kill whomever in order to get these policies reversed or to take revenge.
Never far from a phone, her parents, Jim and Linda Coleman, are desperate and hoping that in the final weeks of the Obama administration, they will strike a deal for her release, such as that of AWOL soldier Bo Bergdahl when 5 Taliban commanders were traded for his freedom, and the release of 4 U.S. hostages in Iran after sending a $400 million payment to Tehran.
The Bo Bergdahl deal, we were told the U.S. government will not exchange hostages, period, and they will not pay money. But they did exchange hostages for Bo Bergdahl.
The realization that their daughter was left behind is gut-wrenching.
I believe she could have been home and brought back when Bo Bergdahl.
The Colemans have mostly kept their frustrations with the government silent, and they are deeply grateful for the relentless help the FBI has provided them with the search for their daughter. But after this latest video, the Colemans have decided to go public for the first time with concerns that the Obama administration could have done more. Caitlin's parents allege the U.S. government failed on a deal in 2014 to get all the hostages out during Bergdahl's release, including Warren Weinstein, who was later accidentally killed in a U.S. drone strike targeting the Taliban.
Did you ever find out why from the administration?
No.
In all your talks with anybody at the administration, you never found out?
Even though the American government continues to say we will not or ever exchange hostages or pay money, they did it.
The White House responded, saying, "We continue to use all the tools at our disposal to try to secure their release and return them to their loved ones." They declined, however, to comment on the Bergdahl trade.
In my gut, in my heart, I know that Katie could have been home.
For almost 2 months, this woman has been on an ISIS hit list. The FBI knew it, but the problem is she didn't, and neither did her local police department until Circa News called them.
When did you first find out?
When you contacted me several weeks later.
This is Amelia, which isn't her real first name. We're using an alias to protect her and her husband, who's in the Army. She's not the only American in ISIS's crosshairs to be kept in the dark. Over the last 2 years, ISIS has issued hit lists naming more than 15,000 Americans to be killed in places like New York, Texas, California, and Florida. Circa News called just 24 on one of these lists and found 22 people who had no idea they were on it. None got a call from the FBI. Amelia was one of the few we talked with who got some sort of warning, but it was vague.
I received a phone call on May 12th from the Army Security Agency.
She said it was a short call, and they read from a script indicating that there was a credible threat on her life, but didn't detail what the threat was. No mention of ISIS at all.
It was a little scary, and then he reiterated after the fact, don't be concerned, we are going to notify your local police department to be aware that you are under this alert, or that the FBI has notified us of this about you.
They're targets for radicalized lone wolves and terror cells. After Amelia got the call, she didn't know what to do.
I really didn't know where to contact anybody to get any more answers. They did tell me that if I needed to contact a local FBI agency in this region, I could, but honestly, as a regular citizen, I'm not really even sure how I would do that.
We called the Army to find out why she'd even been on a hit list. They couldn't talk about it. Then we went to the Corpus Christi police to see if they had been notified, like Amelia was told they were. They didn't know what we were talking about. We tried the FBI too. At first, we got the runaround. But a week after trying to get some answers, we did get this statement from the Corpus Christi police. We were not contacted by the Army or the FBI referencing the threat to our citizen.
The main purpose of government is to protect the citizens of this country.
Chad Jenkins used to be a counterterrorism agent for the FBI and had a job of tracking terror threats. Today, he runs his own security firm.
I mean, if we aren't notifying private citizens, that is a disservice. We need to be asking those questions as fellow Americans why that's not being done right now, especially with the evolving threat that we have seen so recently from ISIS-inspired and ISIS themselves here in America.
FBI officials offered this statement to Circa News, saying they are working hard to alert anyone who fell through the cracks of the notification system. The FBI added that to date, no one on any ISIS kill list has been murdered by terrorists. But that's cold comfort for Amelia.
We're not out there doing the tracking to find out that these things have been on the dark web. If we don't have that ability, we count on the government to do it for us. And they need to share that information with us so that we can protect ourselves.
The walls here just crumbled down.
Destruction can be seen throughout the country.
Much worse than we expected it to be.
The chaos caused by this natural disaster
affected at least 3 million people,
trapping more than 100 doctors and nurses in the rubble.
Tuesday's quake was the strongest to hit Haiti.
The death toll may never be known.
As the rescue workers continue searching, knowing that Port-au-Prince still has a long way to go.
When a massive earthquake hit Haiti in 2010, the international community acted fast, pledging over $13 billion to rebuild the country. 6 years later, Haiti has this to show for it. So we went to the Caribbean nation to see why, despite such an influx in aid, Haiti still isn't back on its feet. Our first stop was Caracol, a city undamaged by the earthquake. The U.S. built its flagship recovery project here. Spearheaded by Bill and Hillary Clinton, the Caracol Industrial Park had a star-studded opening in 2012. It was to be a shining example of Haiti's economic potential. The U.S. State Department promised its $300 million facility, once fully operational, would create as many as 65,000 jobs. But so far, fewer than 9,000 people have been hired. Most work for Korean apparel manufacturer Seiya Trading, which pumps out clothing for some of the biggest U.S. retailers like Walmart and Gap. Workers we talked to complained of no job security and wages as low as $4 a day. That's if you can get a job.
So this is your certificate that says you are qualified to work in the industrial park, and yet you show them this paper and no one will give you a job?
There are people who come here every day, hoping to snag a coveted spot at the sewing machines. The State Department turned down our requests for an interview, but said in an email, quote, "Working in Haiti is challenging and its programs are designed to be flexible." While the Caracol Industrial Park is widely seen as an economic failure, U.S. taxpayer-financed projects like this and many others have been a boon for U.S. contractors working in Haiti. Something noted by the U.S. ambassador to Haiti less than a month after the quake, when he sent back a cable to his bosses at the State Department reading, "The gold rush is on." Working through USAID, the federal agency that gives out foreign aid, some of the biggest checks were written not to Haitians, but to a small group of American for-profit contractors. These contractors did everything from clearing rubble to building permanent homes for quake victims. Or at least they were supposed to.
We're about a mile away from the industrial park in the housing settlement where a lot of the workers and their families live. Now, they built these houses just a few years ago, but they're having to go back in and fix them.
Over the years, USAID has suspended 2 different American contractors for shoddy construction. It then hired another US-based contractor for $5 million to oversee repairs.
L'aide la pi a tombe, doit sous cela yo, nan sol sa yo. Ape nou gan d'lot sorti nan chambre pa derrière, qui passe là, li kouri. Nou gan d'lot porte sot an pa galerie ya, li entre en dedans, tout en dedans chambre nan, li envahi nou.
Instead of the original plan to build 15,000 of them at a cost of $53 million, the U.S. has ended up spending over $100 million on fewer than 1,500 houses. Not much is known about how American contractors spent aid money in Haiti, and that's something that concerns Haiti's former Prime Minister, Michel Pierre-Louis.
After the earthquake, USAID awarded the bulk of its contracts to American firms with ties to DC. They said at the time the local firms lacked the capacity and track record.
It might be true that some firms didn't have the equipment, the capacity, but that's not a reason. Why don't you help them? In the books, it shows that all this money was spent on Haiti. People think that it was for the rebuilding efforts. No, it was not.
The U.S. government's own assessment found USAID neglected to conduct fundamental financial reviews of 2 of its biggest contractors, despite, quote, expending millions of dollars rapidly. We wanted to know where the accountability was, so back in D.C., we asked Jake Johnson, who spent the past 6 years looking into this.
They spent about $2 billion directly after the earthquake. Less than 1% of that actually went to Haitian institutions. Over 50% went to firms here in the Beltway. Organizations have overhead costs, shipping costs, costs for staff. Then they subcontract with other groups, and they have those same costs. And by the time you get to the ground, obviously there's quite less left.
So do we have any way of knowing how much money goes back to that contractor's offices in Washington?
No, in fact, companies' overheads with USAID are privately negotiated and protected as trade secrets.
6 years and billions of dollars later, hundreds of thousands of Haitians are still without sufficient housing. Many live in tent cities like this one, makeshift homes, a combination of ripped tarps and rusted metal sheets that would barely withstand a thunderstorm, much less another earthquake.
Non la, pa gen l'État konnen, si nou bre, si nou manje, koman nou dormi. La pli ap mouye, tout moun entre an dan kay moun krasi.